Hello friends, today we're going to be talking about how to invest in residential real estate. The largest asset class owned by more millionaires than any other in real estate is residential real estate. And conversely, it might be the easiest one to get started with, but most people don't know how. Well, today in this episode, I want to show you exactly what you need to do right now to invest in residential real estate and a few hacks that will help change the game for investing in residential real estate in today's market. Residential real estate is probably the most popular form of real estate investing out there today. Today, I want to help you understand why it is so important to understand this segment of real estate investing and what strategies lie within this segment. And finally, I want to give you some hacks that are working right now so you can jump in to residential real estate and start investing. If you're ready, let's go. So what is residential real estate and why is it so important? To understand that, let's look at the different segments of real estate investing. It's broken up typically into 4 different areas. First is commercial. These are buildings of commerce. This is where big companies house their employees. It's storefronts where commerce is done, bought and sold. And it's one that typically you see the big buildings in downtown areas or commercial real estate. Industrial real estate is that where there's warehouses, there's shipping yards. Anywhere you look in a city, they're going to have usually an industrial area. And that's where a lot of investors that are into industrial investing in real estate will invest. And then you have land, which is broken up typically into 2 categories, agriculture and development. Agriculture is where the farmers are growing their different crops, or people are leasing their land to farmers to grow crops, or there's development where developers are going in, buying a piece of property and developing it to where they can put houses or buildings or any other thing that can be put on that piece of property. And finally, residential real estate. Now, what is residential real estate? Essentially, it's the houses, the condos, the townhomes that people live in, right? Them and their pets, them and their friends. It's where we reside. Easily put, it's none of the others, right? It's one of our basic human needs is to have shelter. And residences are just that, a place for us to find shelter. And it's also most people's largest and most important investment they will ever make. I mean, if you think about it, if there's an individual that bought a home 30, 40 years ago, and they're still living in that home, typically that home is paid off after 30 years, sometimes less. And if they've done that, let's say they bought it for even a small price of $100,000, $150,000, and then if they're in a market that's growing, and just typically throughout the United States, we see appreciation rates of at least 2 or 3%. By the time they sell that property 30 to 40 years later, that $150,000 property could be worth twice that, 3 times that, 4 times that, depending on where they live, right? And depending on how much the area has grown. So for some individuals, that will be the most important investment they have ever made in their lives. The other cool thing about residential real estate is there are a lot of different strategies that exist that can be done within this segment of real estate. But before we dive into those strategies, let's talk about maybe some potential concerning news in the residential real estate market. Now, I've mentioned this in other episodes, but it's been rumored that BlackRock and Vanguard, 2 of the largest companies in the United States or in the world, are gobbling up a lot of residential real estate. They're in the process of consuming 50 to 70% of the residential real estate market here in the United States. So what does that mean if it's true? The good news is there's a buying window for the real estate investor out there that's looking to invest in residential real estate between the next 7 to 8 years. But the other challenging thing is with interest rates so high, is just an average real estate investor or is someone wanting to get started as a residential real estate investor, what do you do? So let's talk some strategies right now that you can do when it comes to residential real estate. First off, I always tell everybody before you get fully invested in residential real estate, and this is something you don't have to do, but I recommend, is buying your own residence, right? That could be a condo, it could be a townhome. When I first started looking for a place that I wanted to live, I started looking at fourplexes. I figured if I could buy a fourplex, and if I could live in one of those units and rent out the other 3, my mortgage would be paid for completely, and I would essentially be living for free in a residence. I remember putting an offer on a fourplex. It never got accepted. I eventually ended up buying a condo where I finished the downstairs basement and increased the value tremendously, and then I owned that condo for many years after as a rental as I moved into a primary residence of my own. But once you own your own residence, whether it's a condo, a townhome, or a home, I think that helps give you a good understanding. Now, like I said, that doesn't have to be that way, but I highly recommend anybody get involved in real estate will start there. Now, what if you don't have money to get started, even to buy your own primary residence? Are there strategies out there that you can utilize? Absolutely, and here's a couple. People that are looking to get into their own home, whether it's a home, a condo, or a townhome, I highly recommend lease options for you as an individual, because here's how it works. Let's say that you want to buy property property, maybe you don't have the work history or the funds to do it right now, you could go to somebody selling their home or their condo or townhome and say, listen, let's agree on a price. And I will buy this from you at a certain date down the road, whether it's 12, 18, 24 months. Once you agree upon that price, you then rent that. So it's kind of a rent-to-own model where you'll pay a lease to the owner of the home. Now, a lot of times people will negotiate that rental price, the amount you pay every month in rent, a certain portion of that is going to go towards the down payment. So let's say you're renting that home for $2,000 a month and you say, listen, I want $500 that month to go to my down payment. 18 months later, I will go ahead and I will buy the home from you. After 18 months, $500 a month, you have $9,000 towards your down payment on that property. It's another great way to get started with little to no money out of your pocket. And by the time your rental contract is up, you then have the funds or close to the funds to then purchase that piece of property. Now, another one I really like, and this falls under the short-term rental market, but obviously deals in residential real estate as well, but this is called Airbnb arbitrage. And I'll spend a whole episode talking just about this in a future episode, but breaking down very simply, it's where you find a long-term rental, whether it's an apartment complex or a condo or townhome or a home, and you're able to then turn around and rent that out for short-term nightly rates. So let's say that there's an apartment complex and you've got to check the rules and regulations. You can go in and you're able to secure this for a long-term lease, say 12 months. You had to put a deposit down, first month rent, and you're able to then turn around and rent it out at nightly rates. If it's in a nice area, let's say that the rent is, say it's even $2,000, $2,500 a month, right? For 2-bedroom, 2-bath, or 3-bedroom, 3-bath in a nice area. And maybe it's a little bit more than that. But if you could turn around and on average, keep that thing occupied 60% of the month, which is 20 days essentially. And if you're able to rent that out at $250 a night for 20 nights, you're looking at almost $5,000 coming in a month, and you're paying say $2,500 or $3,000, you're making that difference. So that's the arbitrage difference, right? Between a long-term rental and a short-term rental, where you're paying a fixed long-term monthly rate, but renting it out each night and hopefully bringing in significantly more than what you're paying in that long-term rent. And that might vary month to month depending on the high season or the low season of short-term rentals, but it's a great way to get started with very little money out of your pocket. And it's a strategy using residential real estate. Now, here's a couple other strategies that are pretty common: wholesaling or fix and flip. So let's talk wholesaling for a minute. Wholesaling is the strategy where you become really good at finding off-market property deals. You're able to scour the internet. You're able to maybe drive for dollars. When I say drive for dollars, that's driving by homes, seeing a home that looks a little bit down, a little bit distressed, and approaching that homeowner. Or sometimes I've even gone to the neighbor and said, listen, I represent some real estate investors and we're looking to buy your neighbor's home. Do you know when they'll be here or where they're at or what the situation is with this home? Ironically, a lot of times those neighbors will tell you a lot more information than you want to know, because they're thinking in their mind, how great would it be to have somebody come in and fix this property up so it doesn't look maybe as distressed as it does right now. So driving for dollars is a great way to find wholesale properties. But also, people always ask me, how do you find off-market property deals? And I use a software called RealFlow. It's amazing. I can query by every single category that I want. If I want to look for pre-foreclosures, absentee owner, vacant properties, I can do that, and it is going to give me all the data, even how much is owed on that property for a specific piece of property that I'm looking at to invest in. RealFlow has been a game changer for me when I use it to find off-market property deals. And if you're able to find those off-market property deals at wholesale prices, I mean, you could turn around, you could flip them and make a little bit of money. You could fix them up a little bit and turn around and fix and flip that way. But wholesaling and then turning around and selling them at a retail price is a great way to get started in residential real estate. Another one that I just mentioned briefly is fix and flip. Going and finding those distressed properties. Once again, I like to find off-market properties that I can maybe buy way below retail value at a wholesale price. And if I can put a little bit of money into those and fix and flip, that's a great way to make a chunk of change as well. Because it might just take painting the door, changing the garage door. It might mean redoing the kitchen a little bit, putting new cabinets in. Now, some of these things cost money, but if you're able to find a property at a great price in a great area that you know you could turn around and sell for a great profit down the road by fixing a few things, I would imagine that you'd be able to find some sort of investor that would come in and partner with you on that. I know I would. If I had somebody come to me and say, listen, I've got this property, it's under contract for this, I just need some money to fix the kitchen or the bathroom or the yard, whatever it might be, but doing so is going to help me sell it at retail prices here in this area, I would do that every single time. So you might say, I don't have the money to do a fix and flip or a wholesale deal, but if you find the deal, I promise investors will come crawling to you to do that, right? Now, these are some strategies that I've really loved as a residential real estate investor. I'd be interested in other strategies that you've done. So please comment below. Let's enter into a dialogue. And as always, I've got a free gift for you. It's at aaronsfreetraining.com. It's a short-term vacation rental calculator where you put the input of how much it costs, the expenses, and it spits out for you whether it's a good deal or not. I've used this on all of my own short-term rental or vacation rental strategies to determine if it's a property I want to buy or if I don't want to buy. Once again, thanks for stopping by. I appreciate you visiting. Have an awesome day.